everybody. Welcome to Next Stage Podcast. This is our first virtual podcast with the quarantine and social distancing. We are going the virtual route, so bear with us if there's a little sound or video issues. It's our first time. We're doing our best, and we're just trying to reach people and get the music and the information out there. Today, joining us is Barry Seroff from Accidental Villain. He's going to be doing a tune off of their new EP called Spent. Again, Accidental Villain. You can find it on all the streaming platforms, Bandcamp, etc., Spotify, all that. And he's going to be doing What's Left. Is that what it's called?
That's right.
What's Left off of Accidental Villain's newest EP. So, Barry, take it away, and then we'll chat.
Shaking your fist at God Almighty. If you were begging for the Christ child's mercy, you surely would not receive. If you spent hours on your knees to pray, I promise you'd still lose your shit one day, and no amount of begging will return your ashtray. So you better be thankful for now.
Yeah, man. That's an intense song.
Thank you.
And I read on the little clip on the Bandcamp that it was about a house fire.
That's right.
What can you talk about that?
Sure.
That's a pretty interesting thing to write a song about.
Well, what happened was, I'm in recovery, and in recovery in AA, I learned to pray. And I was at a meeting one day, and one guy was talking about all this stuff that he prayed for, health and safety and family and all that stuff that I had never really considered. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. So I prayed for some stuff, everything to go well, get a new job, that kind of thing. And then my house burned down.
Whoa.
So it was like, all right, well, nobody was hurt, thank God. We lost one pet and a whole lot of stuff. And, we ended up we moved to a hotel, and then we moved into a family member's house, and we're carrying basically what we had on our backs at that time, just to get around. And it was this realization of I decided I'm gonna, try and get a new job and do that kind of thing, but that just doesn't seem to be the way it works. Thus, like the bridge, you can spend hours on your knees to pray, you will still lose your shit someday, because it's not really, it didn't do anything. So I learned to the realization of not having this stuff and being okay with not having this stuff, and, living in a hotel and being okay with living in a hotel and living with, a family member and being okay with that, was all like, well, it kind of put things in perspective, you know what I mean? Kind of made me stop thinking about, what's going to happen in the future and kind of put me in the now. So, kind of ended up a blessing. I mean, we bought a house, and, we don't have a fireplace anymore. So, we're good.
So it was kind of that experience of learning a lesson about how life works that came in an unusual way, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fitting for our current situation,
Yeah.
I mean, we're really losing. I mean, the thought would have been we're losing our, social connections and all that kind of thing. But here we are, right?
Yeah, we're connecting in a different way.
Yeah. We're just finding other ways to do it.
Yeah, it's like a forced evolution of a sort.
Yeah, yeah, really. This was supposed to be the way it is like 20 years from now, and here we are having to kind of do it now. It's going to be interesting the way things come out of it,
Yeah, man, a lot of things will change. So the new EP is available now, and let's talk about maybe how this project came together. How did it's The Accidental Villain or just Accidental Villain?
The Accidental Villain.
Got the V in there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was a composer in the aughts back in my 20s and early 30s, and I was writing like weirdo art music and strange improvisations and stuff like that. And occasionally I would write a song, but it would be like really terrible. So I would just sort of talk, and then one day, inspired by my now wife, then girlfriend, you're my girlfriend at the time then, right? Yeah. I wrote a song off the first album called Sunsetting Miracles. She's a painter. It was about, and it was like good. And I was like, what the, and I kind of like had this moment where I like stopped composing music and I started writing songs, and it was absolutely black and white. Like I just stopped with the composing, and I don't know why. It's not. I don't have anything against it. Whatever, man. But like for me, it was just a switch, and I kept writing songs, and then I'm like, I need a vehicle for this because I was getting out of a bad divorce. I was writing all this dark material. You know what I mean? And I put a band together, The Accidental Villain, and we recorded a record, started playing out and stuff like that, and it was therapy for me. I never really had much intention of doing a whole lot with it, but, it made me feel good, so I kept doing it. And then, I kind of got over my shit, and then I kept writing songs, and I kept writing songs, and I kept writing songs. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep this thing going. And then that's what led to Spent. Justin Verga of Phoenix Tree fame is the bassist, and Jerry Lozada is the drummer, and my wife, Lindsay Seroff, covers some of the vocals.
So this kind of was birthed out of your switch to songwriting. You said that composition was your thing, and then you got to songwriting, and that made you want to put a group together. So Accidental Villain was born out of your songwriting, I guess, passion or discovery, journey, whatever.
I mean, it was like something. I had written songs before. I've been writing songs since I was like 15 years old, but they all sucked. And when I wrote a song that didn't suck, like maybe I could follow this a little bit. And songwriting was a much more personal and much therapeutic for me than composing was. And I was getting through a divorce, I was going through, a lot of bad stuff. It was a real dark period in my life, and writing the songs allowed me to express that. And, there's always that thing people say about songwriters, like, oh, when they don't write when they're happy, you know what I mean? So I kind of think me. But then, I turned my life around. I got married. I got, good stuff in my life, and I just kept writing songs. So it's like, I guess this is what I do now.
Yeah. So the songs are what made you feel better. So that became the vehicle, for this band, because it was the healing power of it. So you discovered a healing thing in the songwriting that you weren't getting before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's this directness in writing songs for me that, when I was doing more composition, it was a more intellectual process, putting notes on paper in interesting ways. And it didn't have, it was more from the head than, the heart had something to do with it. I like to think I produced some good material in that period, but in terms of composition, I could really directly express how I was feeling through the songs.
Yeah. Did that change how you thought about music?
Always, I never really had a compartmentalized view of music. So, it really didn't. It seemed just like it felt like a natural movement to me. So like, I think music is just like a great big web of inspiration and influence, from Mozart to Napalm Death. It's all there.
Nice.
So it was just accessing a different way of approaching music. It was still, it still served the purpose of creating music for me. It was just a different way of doing it. That's all.
Yeah. Would you say it was like an expansion of what you had before, or more of a just you kind of went into a different part of the map?
I went into a different part of the map.
Yeah.
An expansion for me would have been like going into prog rock or something like that, taking the, which, I play in a prog rock band, so, no sweat on that. But, it was, I feel like my compositions, if I was going in that direction, would have been more composed, written down, and that kind of thing. But I kind of didn't want to write down anything anymore. Even when I got after this period of writing songs and I would get commissions to write material, it would never get written down. I would always draw pictures, or my wife drew, scores for me to interpret, and, improvisation based, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I just got tired of writing down notes, I think.
So it just it gave you a more direct connection to the music as opposed to treating it like a homework sort of thing. It was just coming out of you.
Well, it always kind of came out of me. It's just more measured when it's being written down. It never felt like homework, but it was, it was thinking about, okay, so I don't think of counterpoint when I'm writing songs, but if I'm composing music in classical tradition, I'm obsessed with counterpoint.
What's counterpoint?
Counterpoint is like when one line moves against each other and one musical line moves against another musical line, and there are particular rules that you're supposed to follow, like you're not supposed to have octaves directly into another. It's a whole set of college stuff that I learned, but it's pretty crucial in classical music. So I had to learn it, and it really works when it comes to classical music, but not if it's the Clash.
Yeah. So would you think that the songwriting aspect kind of freed you up?
Oh man, I was pretty free already. I mean, it gave me direction. I mean, I would say like previously it was like I would get the emotion out through improvisation, like free jazz, stuff like that. Real outside shit like Late Coltrane, like Art Dolphy, like that kind of thing. And I would get my rocks off. And that was such a wonderful momentary kind of thing, it was like right in the moment, right there. But you can't, or maybe I wasn't interested in taking that moment and making into a solid thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Composing music, composing songs, writing songs takes that same energy for me and puts it into a solid thing that I can then repeat.
Got it. Yes, the repetition aspect.
Yeah, like I was able to play that song, like if you had asked me to improvise a thing right after the fire, you might have gotten something that, felt a little bit like that song. But I wasn't going to be able to repeat it after all was said and done. But once, I write the song, now I still have that memory and, and that feeling encapsulated in the song that I can come back to.
Yeah, so it kind of pins it down.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It pins it down.
And then the freeform thing is like you're catching the wave as it's coming, whereas a song is like snapshot.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Who's your friend?
Oh, this is Rue. Rue, say hello.
There's a dog on the shot here. Hi, Rue.
He's been loving this quarantine, man.
A lot of human time.
All the pets for Rue now.
So, as far as the rest of the material on the EP, was it all written around the same time? Is it just a collection of songs that have been growing over the years? I mean, I know you started with that one that's about the fire. Is there any chronology to the other songs on the EP?
I mean, not so much on the EP. I mean, the songwriting came from a dark place at the very beginning of it. And then as I kind of found hope, they started becoming more hopeful and they started becoming more freeing. So, I mean, if you look at the thing in a chronological order, you can definitely like date stuff if you know my life. That makes sense. But
yeah.
On the EP itself, for one thing, I didn't write all the lyrics. My wife wrote 2 of the songs on there and sings 2 of the songs on there.
Okay,
and
she's the female voice I hear on that. Huh?
Say again?
Oh, I had a little lapse. So she's the female voice I hear on the EP.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good job.
Yeah, man. And she really her approach to songwriting is a lot different. It's a lot more like storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to be more about other people as opposed to herself. and they tend to be a lot more violent.
Yeah.
She's not a violent person. She's very nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes the most calm people, that there's those things that are inside that we all have,
Yeah.
and we don't want to express them towards others. So writing is a way to get it out.
It's true. I mean, she wrote "Now I Gotta Kill You" on that record, which is about her best friend's ex-husband, who was like a terrible person. We don't need to go there, but like, yeah, she was really pissed off about it. Really, she's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill him. I'm gonna kill him." Now you don't have to kill him.
Yeah. Well, you can explore a lot of topics through songwriting, and I guess that's the beauty of it. You get to confront and express difficult emotions that wouldn't be having an outlet in normal social life. So you get a outlet that way.
That's true. I mean, for me, I had anger problems for a long time, and a lot of the music that I'm into, I'm really into like heavy metal and like grindcore, and like really the noisier and less listenable, the better for me.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be a really good outlet for me and be able to deal with. I never wrote it, which is kind of surprised me because I was, in metal bands and, I was so influenced by that in high school and, going on. But it's just not what came out of me, which I always thought was kind of interesting. I figure the influences that you have are going to define the way that you write the music, but that doesn't always seem to be the case.
No, not at all. Speaking of influences, what are yours? I mean, I don't want to put a sort of label on anything, but I was hearing Pixies sort of vibe from some of this music, listening to it. It might have been the vocal delivery style, some of the arrangement. There's some Pixies sort of style in there. Don't know if that means anything to you, but it was like that mixed with some jazz stuff is kind of my first pass through feeling.
Right. I did love the Pixies, and I know where you're coming from, like some of the chords and stuff, and the way the movement comes like them. But I never got like deep into them, so I wouldn't consider them like a heavy influence. But that era of music is what I grew up in.
Yeah.
So that stuff is just going to come out. It's just going to be there. So, the direct influence for this band when I really decided to put it together was the Minutemen.
Was admitting?
The Minutemen.
Oh, the Minutemen. Sorry, there's a little delay there again.
All right. I heard them and my head kind of exploded. I was like, "Who is this bass player? And who is this band, man? Like, how do they make their instruments talk to each other so much?" I was like crazy about it. And I'm like, I want to put together a band that sounds like the Minutemen. But, it didn't really happen. But I think Justin's bass and the guitar really mesh with each other in that kind of way. So it has this, like, that kind of era, post-punk, like Fugazi, kind of active bass lines, that type of thing. And, Fugazi's a huge influence on me, too.
Okay.
So for this material, I would say, a lot of it comes from that end of things. I still approach chords in kind of that's the connection. It's the chord progressions between when I was writing classical music and when I'm writing now. So I like to avoid the 1-4-5s, and I like to kind of go outside the key and work with, diminished chords and, generally kind of outside chords when I'm writing this stuff. So a lot of it, I would say probably the best example of that on is Now I Gotta Kill You, which I wrote the music in. And then, and then there's No More, which is like a soul number, and then, the punk number at the end, I Fuck Your Wife. So, it's hard to say. It comes from a lot of places.
Well, it's good to draw from a wealth of influences, or to not necessarily have strong ones, but a lot of things that you dig, because then you're going to take it into yourself and come out with something that sounds much more unique. Like, I don't think you sound like anything I've heard. It was just, if I had to draw correlations, yeah, maybe there's some, but it didn't strike me as like, oh, I've heard this before in any way.
Right. Well, even when I was in high school, I made a rule for myself. And when I started writing songs and composing, was that I was going to listen to everything. Even if I hated it, I was going to listen to it. And that really led me down some pretty interesting musical roads. Because, I was into, like I said, I was into Fugazi, right? So, that noisiness of Fugazi's guitars really influenced me and influenced the way that I play guitar. But it also led me to like Glenn Branca, who's just these towering, 12 guitar symphonies, which are just like walls of noise. And I would find that, and I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. But, I haven't quite, that might influence I Fucked Your Wife a little bit, that ending, and, being able to bring in that noise element to it. It's definitely the way I play guitar. But I like songs. So in the end, I just wanted to write songs.
Yeah, I mean that is the most, at least in this day and age, the most potent form of musical communication is a song, because people want something to like hang their ear on, and maybe a part that repeats it's the chorus or something. It's like, that seems to be the most powerful tool. Is that what you recognized in it, or is it just you are attracted to it for other reasons?
I mean, I've always been attracted to songs, and I've always wanted to be a songwriter. It just wasn't what was coming out of me for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I was creating music. I was still trying to connect with people. It was just, maybe a little more, what I'm looking for, like obscure, but, I was still trying to connect with people. I just, but when it came to the songs, I mean, once I could write songs, I was thrilled, because I was like, nothing connects with people like a song. I don't care what kind of music your favorite kind of music is, man. Like, you're right. It's like, the universal musical language nowadays is how we communicate in song. It's, it's contemporary high art, and, and it speaks to people. So it gave me an opportunity to really do that on a larger basis.
Now, as far as songs speaking to people, is there anything you would hope that your songs could do for people, or do for the community at large, or the world at large, if you want to get that big?
I am. I've been through a lot of shit, and I'm a pretty happy person. And if I can communicate, through lyrics, or even, through the music, how one can keep hope and be happy even during the shit, like, that would be nice. I mean, and the root of these is as dark, especially on Spent, as dark as some of the lyrics are, there's always kind of a way out. And, the darkness is there to identify, relate to, and, the way out is, hopefully something I can get to people, who are suffering right now. And that's a lot of people, man. This is hard.
Yeah. So that's kind of a transcendence type message.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm about transcendence.
Kind of you get lemons, make lemonade, as a simple version, but
yeah. Yeah, but I sure wouldn't put it like that.
I was being goofy on it, Had to laugh a little. But I get that. As you said, even in the losing stuff in the fire, you learned a lesson about not valuing material things.
Right.
So that's the light in the darkness. So I can't change the reality of what happened, but I can reframe my way of thinking about it.
I like that. Yeah, reframe. I think that's really key. Being able to reframe, to put in a new context what we're going through, and be able to see the blessings that we're dealing with, even in a period like this. Yeah.
Sometimes reframing is all you can do when a problem is like a problem of, reality, of gravity, something you can't escape, and wishing it away doesn't work. But if you can shift, as you said, your perspective and see the light in the darkness.
I mean, we have to. Like, one thing I've learned over the last 2 years is exactly how little of my life I actually have control over.
Yeah.
That was a big deal, and it was real hard at first to kind of see that and be, and my initial reaction was like, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I even bothering? And then it was like, well, I can't do anything about what other people are doing. You know what I mean? They're gonna do what they do. But for me, I can try and be a positive force in the world. And maybe people will see that, and maybe they won't, I don't know. But it makes me feel better. So it makes me happier. So if I'm going to be happier, at least I could say my wife is going to be happier, my daughter is going to be happier, my son's going to be happier. I can have that small frame of reference in which I can be positive. And, terrible shit's still going to happen, but I have a frame of reference now that takes that terrible shit and makes it smaller.
Yeah, sometimes it's all you can do. And as you said about you can't control people, it's like you can maybe influence the people that you can like physically touch, like that are in arm's length of you, maybe. But anyone who's like greater than arm's length, you really can't even hope to control. So keep it smaller.
Keep it small. Keep it small. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. It's hard. I mean, I'm a teacher too, so try and keep that attitude in the classroom and among colleagues, and it keeps me sane.
Yeah. How does the teaching world work? Have you always done that? Like, when did you get involved in teaching music?
I got well, I've been teaching for a long time, like since when I was about, like right in college, I picked up a few students and kind of at first it was something that I did because it seemed like an easy way to make money. Pick up a couple students while I, get myself situated in the world. Then when, I discovered that making music that I want to make didn't really pay the bills, I got more and more students, and then I discovered that I was actually pretty good at it. So, and once I kind of figured out that I was good at it, like, and people wanted me, I word of mouth traveled, and I ended up making a pretty good living at it for a while. Since then I got my degree, and, I'm teaching in a classroom, just subbing right now, but I'm getting for special ed. I have a lot of special ed students for music as well. I teach autistic kids and ADHD kids, and, the gamut.
What do you see?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you see music doing for people who, have those unfortunate, predispositions, the way they're born, their brain works differently? Do you see it reaching them in different ways than other students? Or what's your experience with working with the mentally, different type of people?
Oh, man. Well, I'll give you an example. I got a nonverbal autistic kid who plays drums. And he, we're just kind of learning patterns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the drums. And, he's gotten pretty good with putting these patterns on a hand drum. But, what we've managed to get him to do is when he gets frustrated, he just wails on those drums.
Yeah.
He just wails on it, man. He's like banging away, and like the aid is like, calm down. I'm like, no, keep it going. So, just the emotional, the physical activity of creating music, is especially drums. I'll be honest with you, man. That's been the one that, like, especially for kids like that, really connected. The physical activity of making music. And then, over time it becomes, I have another kid with some behavior disorders, and he's like, this kid's amazing. He's like not really, he's very impatient and, doesn't like doing scales and stuff like that. But the kid can improvise. And he's 8 years old, man.
Oh.
But he's really learning how to speak his emotions, which he has a hard time otherwise expressing. He's not good with words. He kind of, freaks out pretty easily. But when he plays the piano, man, he really is trying to communicate. And it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
So do you think that with people whose brains just work, let's say, a little bit differently than the norm, that the expressiveness of music is more open field for them?
How do you mean?
Well, in that they're not sort of locked into categorical ways of what's communication, what's not communication, what's proper behavior, what's etiquette, the social constructs that you have to have a conversation or whatever. Does music maybe give them more of a freedom because it's more expansive?
I think so. I mean, I think it does that for everybody.
Yeah.
Music communicates the uncommunicable, It's you can't put into words, a Beethoven symphony. You can't. It hits somewhere where words don't reach. And, for some of these kids, like, they're trying to hit, like for this kid I'm talking about, he's trying to hit a place where his words don't reach. Maybe one day they will. Probably they will. He's only 8, for God's sakes. But, but right now he's aiming to put into music his own frustrations or his own anger or his own joy, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. He's figuring out, and he's figuring out in this very, like, I never told him what to play. I never told him major was happy, minor was sad. We never did that. He figured it out. And what I do with him is I just, okay, we have like, about 15, 20 minutes at the end of the lesson for improvising. Just say play, and he plays. And then I just tell him what he played. And did you like that? Did you not like that? What did you like? What didn't you like? Do that again. If you like this thing, do it again. I'm trying to keep myself out of it. It's hard.
Yeah.
Hard, man. But, he's he's discovering this completely on his own. And that's just, it's like pure creativity, man. It's gorgeous. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Would you say music is like a powerful therapy tool in that way?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I going back to drums, I always kind of found some students, usually ones who couldn't really control their anger, would come to me. The mom would come to me and be like, oh, I want him to play piano or, something like that. I'd be like, all right, do a couple piano lessons. He's, kid maybe into it, maybe not into it. But if I see something in him, that's like a little bit uncontrolled, a little bit wild, I'm like, get this kid a drum set. Get the kid on the drums. And they get on the drums and, they're able to learn some basic beats and, suddenly they're like, wailing away on the thing. And drums is a beautiful instrument because it's the only one you can hit as loud as you can, and it's okay.
Yeah. And it's primal.
Yeah. getting that rhythm in there, man. It's absolutely primal. And, for some kids, like, that's the way they go. If they're, some kids may be a little more two-sided in their mind, a little more, I want to say piano-ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They want, they have, like, different lines, and they understand, like, harmony, and they want to play more notes together and stuff like that. The piano and guitar is another one too for banging away at.
Yeah.
You can get pretty rough with the guitar.
Oh yeah, guitar can be quite a gnarly instrument. I mean, we have completely turned it away from its this way roots of the delicate instrument it was trying to be at first.
Yeah, I guess we could thank Les Paul for that.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely have some kids who they don't need me, man. You learn a couple chords, you're good to go.
Well, that's a beautiful thing that you're able to see that, that music being that therapeutic, expressive outlet for these kids, but also you in your own life experience it being that. So it's like a full circle kind of effect of like music has this wonderful ability to like heal and transcend some of those invisible barriers that we have.
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is I'm kind of a crappy student, Everything that I learned, I had to learn by doing it. So, what I teach is what I learned through my own experience. And at the same time, I don't necessarily expect my students to learn from me, I can only give them guidance, but in the end, they're going to learn from their own experience, too. I mean, I don't know if it's human nature or my own hard-headedness. I'm not sure, but, it's just the way.
Well, I mean, I guess it's all human nature in the end. I mean, every human expression is a variation of the human nature at large. So, so what's obviously with this going on, we can't be playing shows. But what's the plan with Accidental Villain? Are you guys going to be eventually doing live shows with this EP and stuff, or was this just a recording project only? Or
well. It kind of started with the recording project, and what I'm trying to do now is, I mean, in terms of the Accidental Villain itself, like, it's kind of great that the quarantine is awesome for us. Because I wasn't planning on touring. I wasn't planning on doing any shows. I just wanted to release the album and see if I could get some press out of it, see if people liked it. And I didn't have time for that. Work, I got students, I'm taking classes. Now, quarantine hits, I got time.
Reframed it, man.
So I, was like, I'm going to release, maybe I shouldn't have, like, put it out so quick, but, I released the album, and I'm like, all right, now I can, like, put this thing. So I'm like, on my computer for hours a day writing all these bloggers and all these places, see if something sticks and see if it hits. By the time we're out of this thing, if it feels like something which people are really connecting to, and then, we'll put it together, we'll play some shows if people are interested. But, when we were playing shows, they got very frustrated with booking and stuff like that and trying to get people down. And, I hated it.
Yeah, it's a different animal. So for now, it's the EP is out. People can find that on all streaming platforms. And do you want to kind of like summarize anything? Any last words for people, at the end of this cast here?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's I think we really put it very well with reframing this, we gotta, okay, I'm just gonna say this, listen to music. What else are you going to do? Accidental Villain, I don't care. Go back on the Prime catalog, man. Go listen to music because it's gonna get you.
So the music will get us through, or at least help us reframe some of this, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome, Barry. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for sharing all this. It's really been great talking to you and hearing, your backstory and how the band started and your work with kids with music. This is awesome stuff. You're a living, breathing, working musician who's putting the passion out there and sharing that gift with a lot of people. So, I mean, keep going, man. This is really awesome to see.
Thanks.
And
Thanks, man.
yeah, I look forward to seeing a show if that's the road Accidental Villain goes. If not, I'm going to be listening in the meantime. So everybody out there, you should listen to. Check out The Accidental Villain on all the platforms. And hopefully we hear more from you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
What
well,
a pleasure, man.
Huh?
What a pleasure. Thank you.
Had
a good time.
So love you all. Thanks for listening and tuning in, those of you who have. And we'll talk to you and see you all soon, I hope.